Hey guys, Professor Bill of Comic Book University, and on this week's Spotlight on Story, we're going full blown. We're going to be talking about the Rat Queens. Check this out. This is Image Comics, and this is Image Comics at its best. All right, this is a story I read some time ago. You got 16 issues of this. There's a little controversy about the artist and a few other things in here, but I don't even let that bother me, man. This is a great comic book, and this needs to be read. I don't care if you're just a comic book fan. I don't care if you're a high fantasy fan. I don't care if you're a Dungeons and Dragons fan. All three of you come together, read this comic book. Seriously, like that. Now that you already know how I feel about it, let's get started. So, Rat Queens. The story's by Curtis J. Wiebe. I probably butchered that name. I am so sorry. Please forgive me, Kurt. Anyway, art. For the first, 9 issues or so, it's Rock Upchurch. Fantastic art. The creative consultant, Meg Dijmal. Ed Brisson is on letters. Canada's own Ed Brisson. Guys, this guy wound up becoming an amazing writer, all right? But he started out, at the very least, doing letters here. And just, like, it's amazing they got him. Okay, I'm just going to let that go. Sorry, he's one of my favorite current writers right now. So it just feels weird. It's like all of a sudden seeing Don Heck, your favorite inker for the longest time, suddenly having actual art and story duties on Iron Man way back in the day. Tales of Suspense. Anyway, so we're going to jump on the editor, Laura Tavascetti, and I don't know what resident rodent means, but Jim Valentino is always beloved. Also, the first issue has an incentive cover by Fiona Staples. Now, The Rat Queens is an absolutely ridiculous story. It's hysterical. If you're not laughing when you're reading this, there's something wrong inside, and you're going to have to go and talk to Dr. Phil about that. There's so much humor here, so much mirth. We start off with these townsfolk having a meeting, and they're talking about, man, we got all these problems over here and problems over there. Everything's going nuts. All sorts of problems everywhere we go. And the village, this city, we don't have any kind of revenue coming in. Things are bad. There's crime and violence everywhere. Shops are getting destroyed. You're lucky if it's just a window. And it turns out it's because there are too many gangs here. Way too many gangs. And the worst of the gangs is the Rat Queens. So you get these 4 women who are just like, it's hard to even put exactly what they are, all right? But you've got there are all these ladies. You got a dwarf, you got a mage, you got some kind of a dark warlock cleric, and you got the rogue character, and they're just amazing. All 4 of these ladies, they're amazing. But they're not the only group here. You've got Peaches. Don't worry, they won't be around for too long. Not all of them. You got the 4 Daves. Much more comes up with them later on in the books. I think around issue 4 or 5. I think it's actually issue 5. You get a whole lot more from them. But just the 4 Daves. Yes, there are 4 guys named Dave. They refer to each other as, hey, Orc Dave, come over here. Like, that's... Okay. So you got the Brother Ponies. These 4 knuckleheads. Yeah, there's 4 in every single one of these groups. And then you've got the Obsidian Darkness. Most of these groups don't last for very long. I'm just pointing that out, because these groups have caused so much trouble, it's ridiculous. So the town guard has pulled them together, and the chief, the head of the town guard, has some secrets. He's got some secrets, but he's actually a really good guy. The trick is, certain people meet him, and they're like, I remember you. He's like, hey, whoa, I'm not that guy anymore. And there's like some fear there. And then you see him let loose at some points, and he's wicked. Like, perhaps more powerful than all of the groups put together. He's that insane with the things that he can do. So, you got the head of the town watch is trying to rally everybody together. It's like, okay, listen, we're gonna start. You guys want to be your own little adventure groups. That's perfectly fine, but we're gonna actually house you guys now. We're gonna put you under a bit of a more watch. Listen, I want this group to go out here and to beat up this bandit patrol that's been hiding on the outskirts of town. You guys, namely the rat queens, you guys go out and you clear this cave full of goblins. And you guys go clean the latrines and, all over the city and just all these different crazy things. So everybody takes their task with as much mirth as they possibly can. The Obsidians, they enter to start cleaning latrines, and there's an assassin in there who just slices them all up. They're all dead. Good night. It's been nice knowing you. And it turns out these assassins go after everybody. So the rat queens are before they even get to where the goblins are supposed to be, it turns out there might not actually be goblins. In fact, they were just talking about how they just got finished beating up these goblins only a couple weeks ago. Like, what, more goblins came in? Well, apparently we didn't get all the goblins out. I don't know what to tell you. So they breed really fast. Anyway, one of the... at one point, the group comes along and they see that there's a ninja in front of them, all dressed in black and everything, and he's got his swords out. He's like, "Yo," and they're like, "We're going to wipe the floor with you." Unfortunately, that's not quite what happens. They do not wipe the floor with him. He wipes the floor with them. They're literally like getting cut up, sliced, stabbed, jacked up to the gills. And at one point, a giant hammer comes down and crushes the ninja. And it's this huge troll, orc thing. It's a gigantic beast, all right? And they're looking like, what the frick is this? So it literally goes from bad to so much worse. Well, eventually they were able to defeat this thing because they team up with some other adventurers. Half of their party, the Peaches, I think it was, actually got half of their party got killed. So they team up and they're able to take down this orc. Now this orc troll thing. Now this actually comes back to bite them in the butt several issues in the future, but for right now they've got this mystery to solve. Who the heck is trying to kill them? And the thing is, everybody in town hates them. So even trying to find a lead, they start thinking that every lead that they try to find, every person they talk to, this guy might be the person who tried to have us killed. And at one point, this all comes back to the Merchants Guild. And the Merchants Guild seems very innocent, and then suddenly they just stumble upon a person in the middle, not in the Merchants Guild, someone else, some private citizen paying a ninja directly, and goes straight after them. This is actually when you see the town guard. Wow. Oh, this comic is great. Guys, I can't go into enough detail how good this is without just giving you every single detail that happens here. Essentially, what you're going to have is, by around issue 3 or 4, I think it's issue 4, you're actually meeting Gary. Gary wants to becoming the brunt of a lot of jokes, probably the best of the jokes all throughout the rest of the series. And the first several issues, you're thinking to yourself, why didn't I have Gary in these first issues? Why do I have to wait until here to get to Gary? And there's more that comes up later. But Gary is the guy that, hey man, who told these this orc troll, the girlfriend of that orc that we killed before, that troll, that we killed this guy and we're bragging about his death? That guy right there. And it's Gary. It's like, Gary, you son of a gun. At one point, the 4 Daves come in to help, and all the different groups come together to help defend the town. Mind you, in many ways, most of the group is saying, it's because the Rat Queens did this, and all these other groups did this, but somebody had actually sent these people, these groups out to go and try and conquer these quests that didn't really need to be conquered. They didn't exist anymore. So it's a bittersweet kind of thing. And I think enough of the townsfolk start to realize that these guys gave in some ways, some regards, their lives. Some of them actually gave their lives in order to stop this great threat that was actually thrust upon them. But this orc and troll invasion, this is probably one of the best fight scenes I've ever seen in a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. And if you really want to have a good fight scene in one of your campaigns where people can just go absolutely crazy and just start bloodbathing people, or making an illusion of a giant naked orc for the orcs to gawk at, while somebody else runs up and says, "Works every time," and just putting their swords inside of orc heads. Oh my God. And at one point, anybody call for the four Daves? No. Shut up, Gary. Shut the F up, Gary. Guys, there is absolutely cursing. There's lewdness. There's not a lot of nudity, but by issue 6, you actually do start to see some nudity. Maybe it's issue 7. Anyway, it's just one of those things. But either way, like I said, the art is gorgeous. This is not for kids. I mean, unless you really want them to laugh their butts off and you don't mind that they're going to be corrupted for the rest of their lives, because this is some seriously corruptible stuff right here. This comic book doesn't actually feel, this comic series doesn't feel right without Doritos and Mountain Dew. I'm just saying, and maybe some cold pizza. So all of these groups, at one point, by the end of issue 7, I believe, there's actually a giant Cthulhian monster that shows up, and now they have to deal with this. They have to deal with the different guilds and all these different people who are actually rallying against them. They seemed like they were neutral, or they even seemed like they were friends, but no. There are people whose resentment just goes so deep with these rat queens, and everybody starts to eventually fall in line with the rat queens, all the other groups, because they realize they're all being picked off. And one of the best parts of this is actually seeing the individual stories of these rat queens, because they're all very interesting characters. And it's great to see this kind of character development, in which what you'd think on the surface is just a comedy, a humorous comic. No, it's so much more than that. And it's astounding that it could actually be this good. I'm very sad that this ended, and if they ever made a volume 2 of, a second coming of the Rat Queens, Comic Book University would be all over that. I'm just saying. This is one of those comics that you should own, and it doesn't matter who you are. I can't imagine someone reading this and saying, yeah, I didn't really like this. This is for everybody, in my opinion, and there's not a lot of comics I can say that about. But I definitely enjoyed this. I think that you guys will too. Guys, that's going to be it. I know it doesn't seem like there's a lot with the story here. But the thing is, the more I tell you about the story, the less that there is. And while that seems like it's an obvious conundrum, the fact is that the story is very light. So too much of any details just gives away so much of the comic book, and you don't deserve to have this spoiled. You deserve to be able to read this and experience this for yourselves. Anyway, there's links below so you can go and check out the comic book and all that good stuff. Mind you, this helps the channel. It doesn't cost you a cent extra. I don't get to see what you buy, if you buy anything. I only know that someone bought something, and I will get this small 1% of whatever. And it helps the channel. You have no idea how much it helps the channel. It helps to keep the channel free. Anyway, guys, that's it for me. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.